There's a moment, right before something terrible happens, when the world goes quiet. Not silent, just waiting. I didn't understand that feeling before. Now I do. Because every night at exactly 2:17 a.m., my apartment holds its breath. And so do I. The digital clock beside my bed glowed faint red in the dark. 2:16. I was already awake. I don't sleep much anymore. I just wait. My eyes were fixed on the ceiling. The fan wasn't moving. The air felt thick, heavy. 2:17. It happened. Not a bang, not a scream. A click. Soft, metal on metal. The sound of the front door unlocking. My chest tightened instantly. I didn't move, didn't breathe, because this time I locked it. Twice. Deadbolt. Chain. I remember checking it. I always check it. Slow footsteps. Measured. Calm. Not rushing, not hiding, just walking across the living room floor. I could hear the wood creak. One step, pause, another step, closer. The hallway light flickered on. A thin line of pale light slid under my bedroom door. He wasn't trying to be quiet anymore. My throat burned. My body felt frozen into the mattress. The footsteps stopped outside my door. Silence. Then, a soft knock, 3 times, not loud, not aggressive, just enough to let me know he knew I was awake. My phone was in my hand. 911 was 1 tap away, but I didn't press it, because deep down, I already knew something worse than a break-in was happening. The handle moved slowly, gently, testing it. I never lock my bedroom door, I never have, but tonight, it didn't open, because I had locked it for the first time. The handle stopped moving. Silence again. Then, a whisper. Right on the other side. Calm, almost patient. I'm still here. My heart didn't race. It dropped. Because I recognized that voice. And the worst part? It didn't sound like a stranger. It sounded like me. I didn't open the door. I didn't speak. I didn't move. I just lay there, staring at the handle, waiting for it to turn again. It didn't. The hallway light stayed on. That thin strip of pale yellow still cut across my floor like a blade. Minutes passed, or maybe seconds. Time doesn't feel normal at 2:17. Eventually, I forced myself to breathe. Slow, controlled, logical. There are explanations. There are always explanations. Old buildings make noises. Pipes expand. Wood contracts. Metal shifts. You can hear footsteps that aren't footsteps. You can hear doors that never opened. And whispers? Your brain fills silence with sound when you're tired enough. And I was tired. I hadn't slept more than 3 hours a night in weeks. Sleep deprivation causes auditory hallucinations. I Googled it once. Actually, I've Googled it a lot. Symptoms: paranoia, heightened anxiety, hearing your name, hearing voices, hearing yourself. I swallowed hard. That didn't mean anything. The voice didn't mean anything. It was stress. It had to be stress. I slowly sat up in bed. The light was still on outside. That part bothered me. I don't leave the hallway light on, ever. Electricity here flickers if you overload the circuit. I learned that the hard way. So why would I leave it on? Unless I didn't. My legs felt weak when they touched the floor. Cold wood under my feet. The The strip of light looked brighter now, like it was waiting for me to step into it. I walked toward the door slowly, each step careful, listening. Nothing. No breathing, no movement. Just the low hum of the refrigerator in the kitchen. I placed my hand on the bedroom doorknob. It was cold, too cold, like it had just been touched. I told myself that was impossible. Metal gets cold at night. That's normal. Everything has a reason. Everything has a reason. I unlocked the door. The click sounded louder than it should have. I opened it. The hallway was empty. Light on. Living room silent. Front door closed. Locked. Deadbolt still in place. Chain still hanging. Exactly how I left it. I stood there for a long time, waiting for something to move. Nothing did. That's when doubt crept in. Not doubt about him. Doubt about me. Maybe I unlocked it earlier and forgot. Maybe I turned the hallway light on without realizing. Maybe I whispered to myself in the dark. People do that, right? I walked to the bathroom mirror, turned on the light. My reflection stared back at me. Pale. Eyes darker than they used to be. There were faint marks under them I didn't recognize, like bruises or shadows that didn't belong. I leaned closer. For a second, just a second, I thought my reflection didn't lean with me. It felt delayed, off by half a breath. I blinked, and it corrected itself. See, that's what sleep does. That's what fear does. It distorts things. There is no one in the apartment. There never was. I repeated that in my head, over and over.
There is no one here. There is no one here. There is... A faint sound interrupted my thought. Behind me, from the hallway. A soft shuffle. Not loud enough to be clear, but loud enough to not be nothing. I didn't turn around immediately, because if I turned around and someone was there, that would make it real. And if no one was there, that might be worse. Slowly, I looked toward the bathroom doorway. The hallway light was still on, and for a split second, I thought I saw a shadow move across the wall. Too tall, too slow. Then it was gone. I didn't chase the shadow. I didn't call out. Instead, I did something worse. I went looking for proof. Because if I could prove something was wrong, then it wasn't just in my head. And if I couldn't, then maybe it was. I walked back into the living room. Everything looked normal. Too normal. Couch untouched. Coffee table clean. Remote exactly where I left it. Front door locked. Chain secured. Deadbolt tight. No scratches. No forced entry. No signs of anything. That should have comforted me. It didn't. Because this wasn't the first night. It was just the first night he knocked. I grabbed my laptop from the desk. Opened it. The screen's glow felt harsh in the dark. I went to the folder I swore I'd stopped checking. Security recordings. I installed the camera 2 weeks ago. Small, hidden, pointed at the living room. At first, I told myself it was for peace of mind, but it wasn't. It was because I felt watched, long before I heard footsteps. I clicked on last night's footage. 2:10 a.m. Empty room, still. 2:14, nothing. 2:16. The hallway light flickers. I froze. I don't remember it flickering. 2:17. The living room darkens slightly, like something passed between the camera and the light, not fully blocking it, just enough. A distortion, a shift in shadow. I leaned closer to the screen. There, near the hallway entrance, a shape, tall, unclear. It didn't walk in. It didn't appear suddenly. It was just there, like it had been standing just outside the camera's angle the entire time, waiting. The timestamp kept moving. 2:18. The shape shifted slightly, not forward, not backward, sideways, closer to the wall, like it was careful not to fully reveal itself. 2:19. The hallway light turns off, by itself. The living room goes dark. The shape disappears into black. I stopped the video, replayed it 3 times. Every time, the same thing. Same flicker, same distortion, same shape. My breathing became uneven, because I've seen this before. Not in the footage, in real life. I stood up slowly, walked to the hallway wall. There are faint marks there, thin, vertical, almost like scratches. I noticed them last week. I assumed it was old damage from furniture. But now, they're too evenly spaced, too deliberate, and there are exactly 3 of them. 3 scratches, 3 knocks. I stepped back. My mind started connecting things I tried not to connect. The hallway light flickers almost every night at 2:16. The air feels heavier at 2:17. The refrigerator hum stops at 2:18. I checked older footage, scrolled back days, a week, 10 days. Every single night. 2:16, flicker. 2:17, distortion near the hallway. 2:18, darkness. It wasn't random. It wasn't stress. It was a pattern. And patterns mean intention. I sat there staring at the screen when something colder hit me. In all the recordings, the shape never enters the living room. It never crosses the visible line. It never fully steps into frame. It stays just outside, like it knows exactly where the camera can see, like it understands the boundaries, like it's learned the apartment better than I have. My stomach turned. Because there's only one way that's possible. If it isn't coming from outside the apartment, then it already knows the inside, better than me. Slowly, I opened the apartment layout on my phone, the original blueprint the landlord emailed me when I moved in. I zoomed in on the hallway wall, and that's when I noticed it. A narrow gap in the structure, behind the wall between the hallway and my bedroom. Not marked as storage, not marked as utility, just empty space. Too small to be a room, too large to ignore. I stared at that blank space for a long time, because suddenly, the scratches, the footsteps, the whisper, the shadow that never crosses the frame, it all made sense. If he never enters the living room, if he never uses the front door, if the chain is always locked, then maybe he never left. Maybe he never needed to. I didn't move for a long time. The blueprint was still open on my phone. That thin, empty strip between my bedroom and the hallway. Just blank space. No label, no purpose, no explanation. My landlord never mentioned it. The listing never mentioned it. And I never questioned it. Because who questions a wall? I stood up slowly, walked toward the hallway again. The scratches were still there. 3 vertical lines, about shoulder height. I ran my fingers over them. They weren't surface marks. They were deep, cut into the paint, into the drywall. Deliberate. Not old. Recent. My chest tightened. I pressed my ear against the wall. At first, nothing. Then, a faint sound. Not movement, not breathing, just a hollow echo. Like there was more space behind it than there should be. I stepped back.
My heart was pounding now, not from imagination, from confirmation. I went to the kitchen, opened the drawer, took out a butter knife. It felt stupid, small, useless, but it was something. I came back to the wall, stared at those 3 scratches again. 3 marks, 3 warnings, or 3 invitations. I pushed the tip of the knife into one of the lines. The drywall cracked easier than it should have. A thin split formed. Dust fell to the floor. I hesitated. This is the point where sane people stop. Call someone, leave, wait until morning. But I didn't. Because if something was behind that wall, it had already been there longer than I realized. I pushed harder. The crack widened. A chunk of drywall broke loose, and then cold air rushed out. Not a breeze, not normal airflow. Cold, stale, like air that hadn't moved in years. The smell hit me next. Metallic, damp, wrong. I dropped the knife, used my hands instead, tore more of the drywall away. The hole widened just enough to see inside. Darkness, but not empty darkness. Depth. There was space back there, a narrow crawl space running the length of the wall. My pulse roared in my ears. I grabbed my phone, turned on the flashlight. Slowly, I pointed it inside. At first, the beam caught insulation, wood beams, dust. Then it moved slightly to the right and stopped. There were marks on the inside of the wall, not scratches, finger trails, long streaks in the dust, like someone had been dragging their hands along the beams, over and over and over. I felt sick. The beam shifted lower. There was something on the floor of the crawl space. Fabric, dark, folded. No, not folded. Placed, carefully. I reached inside, my hand shaking, pulled it out. It was a shirt. Mine. The one I couldn't find last week. I stared at it. Cold realization spreading through me. He didn't break in. He didn't enter through the door. He wasn't watching from outside. He was inside the walls, inside the apartment, inside the space between rooms. That's why the footsteps never sounded distant. That's why the shadow never crossed the camera. That's why the whisper felt close. Too close. My flashlight flickered for just a second, and in that second, I heard it. Not from the hallway, not from the living room, from inside the wall. A slow shift, a subtle movement, like weight adjusting in a tight space. I froze. The beam steadied again. The crawl space looked empty, but it wasn't. It couldn't be, because the air was still moving, and I could feel it, breathing from the other side. I didn't pull my hand back, even though every instinct was screaming at me to. Instead, I leaned closer to the hole, listening. The air inside the wall wasn't just cold. It was moving, slowly, rhythmically, like something shifting its weight in a confined space, waiting for me to decide what to do next. Hello? I don't know why I said that. Maybe I expected silence. Maybe I hoped for it. But silence didn't come. What came was worse. A soft scrape, wood against fabric. Close. Too close. I stepped back immediately. My heel hit the hallway wall behind me. For a split second, I had a terrifying thought. What if that wall wasn't solid either? What if this entire apartment was layered with space I didn't know about? I pointed the flashlight inside again. The crawl space looked empty, but the dust on the beams was disturbed now, more than before. Fresh streaks, and they weren't random. They were angled, moving toward the direction of my bedroom. My stomach dropped. The space runs between the hallway and my room. If someone was inside that crawl space, they could move along the entire length. They could stand behind my bedroom wall, behind my bed, behind the exact spot where my head rests every night. The realization hit like ice water. That whisper at 2:17. It didn't come from outside my bedroom door. It came from the other side of my wall, right next to me. Not entering, not leaving, just existing there, watching through cracks I couldn't see, listening to my breathing while I slept, or pretended to. I felt something else then. Not fear, not panic. Understanding. He wasn't trying to break in. He wasn't testing the door. The knocks weren't about entry. They were about presence. A reminder. I'm still here. The 3 scratches, 3 knocks.
Access. I slowly turned my flashlight off. Darkness filled the hallway. And in that darkness, I could hear it clearer. A faint shift inside the wall, moving. Not away from me, not deeper into the crawl space. Closer. Toward my bedroom. Toward the bed. Toward the place I feel safest. I didn't think. I ran. Down the hallway, into my room, slammed the door shut, locked it. Pointless. Completely pointless. Because locks only matter when the threat is outside. I backed toward my bed slowly, listening. The wall behind it felt heavier now, like it wasn't just drywall and insulation, like something solid was standing inches away, on the other side. Then, 3 soft taps, directly behind my headboard. Not on the door, not in the hallway. Inside the wall. Measured, calm, intentional. My throat tightened, and then I heard it. Not a whisper this time, not distant, not muffled. Clear, right through the wall, right behind my pillow. You finally found me. You finally found me. The voice wasn't distorted. It wasn't monstrous. It wasn't inhuman. It was calm, familiar, steady. I didn't scream. I didn't move, because the second I heard it clearly, something inside me shifted. That voice, it wasn't just similar to mine. It was mine. Same tone, same cadence, same slight rasp at the end of certain words. Like listening to a recording of myself played back from another room. 3 more taps, slower this time, not impatient, almost relieved. You weren't supposed to see it this early. My chest tightened. This early. Those words echoed, like this wasn't random, like there was a timeline, a plan. I swallowed hard. What are you? My voice barely came out. There was a pause behind the wall. Then, a soft chuckle. Low, close. What you left behind. My mind went blank. Left behind? I've never lived here before. I moved in 3 months ago. New city, new job, new start. That's what I told myself. But suddenly, that phrase didn't feel right. New start. Why did I need one? Fragments flickered in my head. Therapy sessions. Black coffee across from a woman asking me to be honest about the gaps. A moving truck I don't remember packing.
Boxes labeled in handwriting that didn't feel like mine. Sleepwalking. The landlord mentioning something strange when I first signed the lease. "You're sure you haven't lived in this building before?" I thought it was a joke. It wasn't. Behind the wall, something shifted again, but this time, the sound didn't travel along the crawl space. It felt centered, right behind the exact spot where my head would rest when I sleep. "You built it," the voice said quietly. "Built what?" "The space." My pulse pounded in my ears. "No one else can fit in here." The words landed heavy. No one else can fit in here. The crawl space. It wasn't wide, it wasn't tall, it was narrow, uncomfortably narrow. Too narrow for most adults, unless someone knew exactly how to move inside it, unless someone had measured it, designed it, adapted to it. My breathing became uneven. "I've been here the whole time," the voice continued softly. "Every night you locked the door, I stayed." The hallway light flicked off. The apartment plunged into deeper darkness. Only the faint streetlight glow filtered through my blinds. "You don't remember because you didn't want to." The words hit harder than anything else. Didn't want to. Memory isn't perfect. It protects you. It hides things, especially if those things are you. My eyes drifted slowly toward the mirror across my room. In the faint light, for just a moment, I thought I saw movement behind me. Not in the wall, in the reflection. A shape standing where the wall should be, but when I blinked, it was gone. Behind the drywall, a slow inhale, matching mine, exactly matching mine. Then, 217, the voice whispered. "That's when you switch." My stomach dropped. Switch. Every night at 2:17. The flicker, the distortion on camera, the shadow that never enters fully. It wasn't avoiding the camera. It was stepping out of frame. Because the camera wasn't recording a stranger. It was recording me. Half in shadow, half in darkness, standing just outside the visible angle. Not watching from the hallway, watching from inside the wall, waiting for myself to go back to bed. My knees felt weak. I staggered backward, shaking my head. "No." Silence. Then the softest response. "Yes." 3 taps again. Not threatening, not violent, just patient. "You don't remember climbing in. You don't remember sealing it. You don't remember promising to stay." My breathing became frantic now, because somewhere deep inside,
Buried under exhaustion and denial, there was something. A memory. Of squeezing into darkness, of wanting to disappear, of wanting to split, to not be alone, to not feel what I was feeling. "You asked me to hold it for you," the voice said gently. "The fear, the guilt, the anger." My vision blurred. "You couldn't carry it anymore." The crawl space shifted again, but this time, the sound wasn't separate. It felt internal, like something aligning, like something returning. "You don't need me in the wall anymore," the voice whispered. "You found me." Silence filled the room, heavy, still. Then one final sentence, soft, certain. "It's time to switch back. It's time to switch back." The words didn't echo. They settled, like they belonged there, like they had been waiting longer than I had. I shook my head slowly. No,
No, that's not real. My voice sounded distant, thin, unconvincing. Behind the wall. There was no more movement, no scratching, no shifting. Just breathing. Steady, matching mine. Exactly. Inhale. Exhale. Inhale. Exhale. I stopped breathing. It stopped too. My chest tightened. I inhaled sharply. So did it. Not delayed, not distorted. Perfectly synchronized. Tears burned behind my eyes. This isn't happening. But something inside me already knew. It had happened. Over and over. Every night at 2:17. The camera footage. The shadow standing just outside frame. The hallway flicker. The dark gap between seconds. I wasn't being watched. I was stepping out. My memories began to feel loose, unstable, like files being opened in the wrong order. A flash, me standing in the hallway at night, barefoot, staring at my own bedroom door from the outside. Another flash, my hand tracing 3 scratches into the wall, slowly, carefully. Another, dragging insulation aside, widening a space just enough, breathing inside it, testing it, learning it. I staggered toward the mirror again. My reflection stared back, but something was different now. It didn't look tired. It looked calm, balanced, complete. You made me to survive, the voice said softly. But this time, it didn't sound like it was coming from the wall. It sounded closer, inside my head. You couldn't handle what you did. What I did. My stomach twisted. The accident. That word surfaced like something breaking through dark water. The accident. Rain, headlights, a figure in the road, the sound, the impact. I stopped breathing. I left. I told myself it wasn't my fault. I told myself I didn't see them. I told myself I couldn't have stopped in time. But I didn't check. I drove. I kept driving. The guilt didn't start immediately. It came later, in quiet rooms, in long nights, in the way I couldn't look at mirrors without feeling watched. You built the wall, the voice whispered, so I could hold it. The fear, the guilt, the part of me that remembers, the part that doesn't forgive, the part that stands at 2:17 and knocks, not to scare, to remind. I slid down the wall slowly until I was sitting on the floor. The bedroom felt smaller now, not because something was in it, but because something was no longer divided. I don't want this, I whispered. Silence. Then, you don't get to not want it. The temperature in the room felt normal now. Not cold, not heavy. Balanced. I realized something terrifying in that stillness. The wall wasn't breathing anymore. Only I was. The crawl space was quiet, empty, because whatever had been inside it wasn't separate now. It didn't need the wall. I felt something shift inside my chest, not physically, but mentally, like 2 thoughts aligning into one. The panic began to fade. The shaking slowed. My reflection in the mirror straightened before I did. And this time, it didn't correct itself. It was just ahead, by half a breath. You don't switch at 2:17, the voice said calmly. You remember at 2:17. The hallway light flicked on again, soft, steady, no flicker, no distortion, just normal light. There were no footsteps now, no taps, no whisper from behind drywall. Because there was no behind anymore. Only me, and the memory, and the truth. I slowly stood up, walked to the hole in the hallway wall, shined my phone light inside. Empty. No fabric, no disturbed dust, no crawl marks, just insulation, untouched. The shirt I pulled out earlier? Gone, like it had never been there. The 3 scratches on the wall, still there, but now I knew who made them. I reached out, placed my fingers over them. They fit perfectly, like they were measured, like I had measured them. Behind me, the bedroom felt silent, peaceful, for the first time in weeks, and that terrified me more than anything else, because monsters are loud. Guilt is quiet. And now, it wasn't outside the wall anymore. It was sitting calmly inside my chest, waiting for 217.
The room was quiet. Too quiet. I could hear the hum of the fridge in the kitchen, the distant sound of a car passing on the street, but none of it reached me, because everything inside me had shifted. I sat on the floor, back against the wall. The scratches, the crawl space, the taps at 217. All of it, mine. All of it, a reflection of what I had carried for so long. The voice wasn't separate anymore. It was me. Every whisper, every movement, every patient knock, all born from the side of me I had tried to bury. The guilt, the fear, the part that couldn't forgive. It had built a home, a space, inside my walls, inside my mind. I touched the scratches on the hallway wall, and it felt familiar, comforting even. The reality I had fought to accept was staring me in the face. I had created the Watcher. I had been the Watcher. Every night at 217, I wasn't being watched. I was performing, testing myself, seeing if I could survive. And I had, for weeks, months, years. I finally let out a long, shuddering breath. The fear began to ebb. The shaking subsided. I felt a calm that was almost unbearable, because the calm wasn't relief. It was acknowledgement. The voice whispered again, so soft this time I almost didn't hear it. You're ready now. Ready for what? I didn't answer, because I already knew. Ready to integrate, to stop fighting, to stop pretending there was a separation. The hallway light flickered, then steadied. No taps, no whispers, no scratches moving, just the wall and me. I stood slowly, brushing my hands against the drywall. It didn't feel like wood and paint anymore. It felt like a living part of me. Something I had ignored, something I had feared, something I now accepted. I walked to the bedroom. My reflection in the mirror was steady, balanced, not separate, not fractured. It was me, the Watcher, the watched, one and the same. The clock ticked 217, and I smiled. Not because I was safe, not because it was over, but because finally I understood. I was never alone, and I never would be. The clock ticked past 217. I sat on the edge of my bed, silent, empty. But nothing felt empty anymore, because the presence inside me, the Watcher, was no longer hidden. It didn't need the wall. It didn't need the darkness. It only needed me. The scratches on the hallway wall gleamed faintly in the dim light,
Not because they were new, not because someone had returned, because I could feel them. Every memory, every fear, every night I had survived. I stood slowly, my legs trembling. I walked back to the crawl space, shined my phone light inside. Empty, still. But the air felt heavy, like someone was watching. But it wasn't someone. It was me. The realization hit harder than any scream. I was both the hunter and the hunted, the ghost and the victim, the watcher and the watched. The air grew colder. My reflection in the mirror twisted slightly. Not mine, not entirely mine. A shadow lingered behind me, familiar, patient. It mimicked my every movement. I reached out to touch it. My hand trembled. The shadow didn't move on its own. It merged with me, with my reflection. The breathing matched mine, the heartbeat mine. The past months, the nights of isolation, the 217 rituals, it wasn't over. It would never be over. The watcher would always be there, inside me, watching, waiting, patient. I walked to the bedroom window, looked outside. The street was empty. No signs of life. No sound except the faint hum of the city in the distance. I turned back. The apartment was still, silent. I sat down, let my back touch the wall, closed my eyes, and let it in. The watcher, the fear, the guilt, the part of me I had run from. I finally embraced it, because there was no escaping it. And maybe that was the real horror, not the shadow, not the taps, not the crawl space. It was me, and I would never leave. The room grew colder still. A soft tapping echoed from the wall, from behind me, from inside. I froze. It stopped. Then 3 slow taps, like every night before. Patient, knowing, waiting. I exhaled and smiled, because now I knew I was never alone, and I never would be.